Hi, Anayo.
Hi.
It's so good to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. I've been looking forward to this conversation, which is months in the making.
Yes, I know. Ever since we met, we've been kind of talking about this, so I'm very excited that it's finally happening.
Thank you, and we are thrilled to have you. So, this is Hard Launch. Hard Launch is a community where women thrive beyond their 9 to 5, connect with like-minded entrepreneurs, and launch on the brighter side of the hustle. And today we are joined by the perfect person to talk about just that, Anayo Awuzie. Anayo is an editor, storyteller, and creative marketer exploring the in-between spaces of Black womanhood, where healing, identity, and everyday life unfold. She is the founder of Carefree Magazine, a slow storytelling platform sharing personal essays from Black women on life, love, and adventure, and the editor of Black Women in Bloom, a coffee table book featuring over 30 essays from Black women across the diaspora on their journeys of becoming, alongside original art and photography. Her work sits at the intersection of story and strategy, building worlds that feel as intentional as they are honest.
Ooh, yes. That was
I
beautiful.
mean,
Thank you. Ooh, when you say it, yeah, I don't often hear myself introduced. So when I hear it back, I'm like, wow, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank
you are her.
you.
You're her.
Yeah.
And I mean, it all started with the LinkedIn DM. Can LinkedIn
Yeah.
sponsor this discussion?
Yeah. Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
LinkedIn.
So I love that I get to interview you about Carefree Media and Carefree Magazine after introducing myself to you on LinkedIn. So that our listeners know, Anayo and I met because she posted an essay written by one of Carefree Magazine's writers, Angela, and it was titled, I'm my parents' retirement plan, and now I've been laid off. So
Mhm.
that's Angela Kahuru's writing.
Yeah.
And Anayo, as you know, I read Angela's essay and then I sent you a message on December 5th, 2025. And I said, Anayo, I'd love to connect because I deeply resonated with this piece about intergenerational support as Black immigrants and how layoffs or job insecurity impact that. I'm a journalist. I'd love to discuss collaboration opportunities. And here we are.
Here we are.
So, that's a great point of departure. And I will just talk to us a little bit about what you value the most and the extent to which your corporate career has allowed you to fully thrive in those values.
Yeah. Well, just one, thank you, Crystal, for bringing me on. And like, I'm very grateful that you reached out on LinkedIn. I don't use LinkedIn that often, so it was very serendipitous that we got to connect. But yeah, I think in terms of the values I hold most dear, I think for me, how I show up within Carefree, I truly value storytelling. I truly believe that storytelling has the ability to heal, and I truly believe that everyone has a story inside of them. And so my mission has been to help Black women find those stories, those everyday stories that we tell our best friends, we kind of write in our journals, we maybe think are one off and aren't maybe that important. I really want to help Black women bring those stories out into the light and share them with others to be able to serve as mirrors and windows for people. So a lot of Black women, when they read our stories, they talk about how, oh wow, I didn't know anyone else was going through this. This is so relatable. And that's pretty much my goal, is that you are seen and what you are going through, you are not alone. And I believe storytelling is a huge vehicle to make that happen. I also value creativity. I also value radical transparency. And I think that in my corporate life, I've had a very, I guess, a nonlinear career in some ways. I started in media and journalism and have now ended up in tech, in marketing, which I guess isn't a crazy nonlinear path. But a lot of the companies I've fortunately been able to, you know, learn how radical transparency is able to push the needle forward when everyone's brought in and everyone is on the same page and feels that comfort and trust with the other person to know that, we're all doing the same work and trying to push the same thing forward. I think I've learned that. And I've also had the opportunity to do a lot of creative things and see how much value corporate puts into creativity, especially in the roles in marketing and maybe like as a on the creative team or design team. These are all teams that I've been on, content teams. Creativity has been a huge avenue for me to express myself, learn how others express, we express together, and also be able to do really cool work. So yeah, I would say those are values I hold really close.
And I appreciate you sharing that because it comes across in the way that storytelling is at the forefront and being authentic and what you're calling radical transparency,
Mhm.
right? Describe yourself at the moment that you realized that you need to create this business. What were you feeling about your work and your life during that time when that light bulb went off for you?
Mm. Honestly, I was feeling bored. I was feeling very bored. If that is the best, that's the first word that's coming to mind, so I'm going to share that. I was feeling bored. I was just fresh off of working my dream career in New York. I was working in fashion as a journalist. I was covering shows, interviewing designers and celebrities, and it was really cool and really fun. And I did that for about 2 years. I was an editorial assistant at a Black-owned media company. And I just felt like, on one hand, on the outside, it looked like I was living this really cool life. But internally, I really felt like the work that I was doing didn't have a lot of value, mainly because once you get into these media companies, you learn pretty quickly that the stories aren't the important thing. The stories are just kind of a vehicle to get advertising dollars. And
Yeah.
so a lot of the work I was doing was like creating slideshows and listicles and basically trying to get as many clicks as possible to the ads on the site. I'm working at this Black-owned media company, and we're not telling the stories that I want to tell. We're not doing the work that I want to do. And so I ended up quitting 2 years later and moved right back home into
Oh,
my parents.
wow. So let's
Yeah,
pause. So you resigned. So where
I
was
resigned.
this?
This was in New York.
Okay.
So, yeah, I moved from California to New York, and then I did it for 2 years, worked there for 2 years, and then I ended up resigning. So that was in 2015, and I moved right back in with my parents at their house trying to figure out my next step. And I was just thinking about like the representation Black women had in media. And I was a big follower of sites like Man Repeller. I don't know if you've heard of XO Jane or like these older kind of blog sites that were letting women, white women, tell their stories in a very
Mhm.
uninhibited way. So it would literally be, I went to a yoga class and there was a fat person there. Here's how I felt about it. Or I
Whoa.
love avocado toast and here's why you should too. Like it was just, yeah, it was just these very like just, yeah, these kind of uninhibited, shameless personal essays that focused on very regular stories around white womanhood. And I enjoyed reading them, but I was like, why can't we have something similar for Black women? And
Mm.
so I guess I was bored with how Black women were being represented online. And I remember being in my bedroom and just lying in bed and thinking about it. And I was like, yeah, I want to create something like this for Black women. And Carefree Black Girl, the hashtag at that time, was like really popular on Instagram. I felt very seen by it. And so, Carefree was what I called it. And as like an homage to that movement that was happening at the time. And that's how it started.
Wow. So you were in this role with a Black-owned media company, and yet you felt bored by the way that Black women were, I would even say, allowed
Hmm.
to show up online and
Yeah.
tell their own stories. And so that's when you realize, okay, I can build this. So I know what year you resigned. When did you actually create Carefree?
So I didn't create Carefree until 5 years later in 2020.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I sat on it for 5 years. I believe I started the Instagram page in 2015, but I was just kind of posting here and there, but I didn't really go all in with it until 2020.
And tell me about 2020. Like, what did going all in with it look like at the time for you?
Yeah, so at the time, I guess for me, all in. So all in meaning I decided, hey, I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna build it and I'm going to launch it and just see what happens. So in 2020, well, we all know what was happening in 2020, but I was working a corporate job. I was working at Facebook at the time, and we were at home. A friend had sent me a link. There was all these different challenges going around, and she
Yeah.
sent me a link to join her meditation challenge. And I had never really meditated before, but didn't have much to do. I was at home, so I thought, why not? I did the full challenge. It was a 21, the full 3 weeks. And it was so transformative that literally on the 22nd day, like the day after the challenge, I was like, I'm building this. We're launching it. It's happening.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I just started getting to work. I think I did the challenge maybe yeah, it was probably like March or April. And then I launched Carefree in May. So I just kind of quickly got to it, built the site, and did have the space at that time because, everything was shut down. My job, we were working from home. I was kind of just able to have the space and time to actually finally launch it.
Yeah. And how many hours would you say? I mean, I know it was a different world,
Yeah.
of course, in around May 2020, but about how many hours were you committing of your own time off work to Carefree at that time? Just so people understand the amount of woman power and woman hours that it takes to actually launch something while you're fully employed.
Yeah, I love women power and women hours. I love that. I honestly, I remember at the time I was so focused on it that it was pretty much, and I'm a night owl. So as soon as I was done with work around like 4:30, I would take a break, get some water, get some food, and then come back and just start working on this through the rest of the night. So I'm assuming at that time it was probably like 5 or 6 hours every evening because I
Wow.
really I had given myself this deadline to launch it, like a month or a month and a half later. And so I'm in the back end of WordPress trying to figure out the code. How do I make the website look pretty? How
Yeah.
do I, how do I, I need to get writers. I need content. I need to launch with something. And so it was a lot of not only just building the back end, but setting up these writers, finding writers, sourcing them, getting their stories, talking to a bunch of people about different platforms I could use to distribute. It has always been a newsletter based publication. So I was debating, like, oh, am I going to have it published on the website, but you can't see it on the website? And I send it out via the newsletter, but only subscribers can see it. So I was trying to figure that out. And that took a lot. I was talking to a lot of women about how to get this started as well. So a lot of networking. So yeah, I would honestly say about like 5 hours every day after work.
And that's commitment, honestly,
Yeah.
Anayo, because it's sometimes you only have the after work hours to really get it done.
Exactly.
And especially when it's something that it sounds like it's so personal to you and it's so aligned with your own personal ethos
Yeah.
that you do want to, when you launch it, you did want it to feel as almost sacred as it
Mhm.
felt to you when you conceived in your mind. Would you say so?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's probably the blessing and maybe like I don't want to say the curse, but maybe that's like the bittersweet part of it as well, is that it's so attached to who I am as a person that like I needed to have so much control with it because I had a very specific vision and it's very related to my own personal mission.
Yeah.
So it's great because I love it. And when I put something into it, all I have to do is think about, okay, now what would you want to see, or what would you be interested in reading? And that was kind of, at least earlier on, really helped me grow. Now, as I have a bigger audience, it's like, okay, I have to think about the audience and what they want to see and read.
Yeah.
It also makes it a bit harder to let certain things go. So there's certain aspects where, like marketing or just distribution or monetization, that sort of thinking, I have my own way that I would do it, but I can't do everything. So, handing certain things off has been a little bit of a challenge, but I've had to make that call just so I can, get things done.
Yeah. And then drilling a little deeper into that, right?
Hmm.
What is the first major sacrifice that you made for your business, and would you do it again? Now, sacrifice could mean even what you're alluding to, of relinquishing some control, or
Hmm.
a sacrifice could just mean something that you didn't expect to
Hmm.
lose along the way, and maybe it taught you something.
Mm. That is a great question. I think the control piece is one. I'm the editor in chief, but there's been times where I have just been exhausted. And there was a point in time where I brought on other editors and like kind of let them take over the newsletter with their own voices. And that was different for me and a bit of a sacrifice. It was cool for the time. It didn't end up working out long term, but that's one kind of area where I've sacrificed. I think also just my time and money, like my time in terms of, there's been so many times where the newsletter comes out every Monday. And yes, there have been plenty of times where on Sunday night, I'm like scrambling.
Feverishly wanting to
Yeah.
make sure that, yeah.
Feverishly putting everything together and just sacrificing like time with friends, time with family to like make sure this is a consistent thing every week. Every weekend, I'm kind of skipping plans or like, hey, I can't do this because I have to you do this or I want to go to this networking event. So I know these specific people will be there and kind of trading my social life for this has been a huge thing, especially in the beginning when I was building it and really trying to put it out there. And then I think also just like my own like financial security a bit. I have put a lot of the money that funds Carefree is my own personal income. And so,
Wow.
yeah. And
Yeah. So
so
self-funding.
self-funded, yeah,
Okay.
for 5 years now or 6 years now. Yeah.
Wow. And so
So,
what does that look like on a practical level? So let's talk about a little bit of the tactical piece,
yeah.
right? So you were at Facebook/Meta, right?
Hmm.
And what was that overall annual income?
Yeah.
And how much of that, whether it's a number or percentage, that you were stowing away every paycheck,
Yeah.
knowing that you needed to fund, essentially self-fund Carefree?
Yeah. So when I was at Meta, when I left there, I left in 2023. I believe I was making around in total probably around 210K. And that includes my base salary and my equity
Yeah.
and the bonuses I would receive. So in tech and probably other industries, but I've really mostly worked in tech. But it's a total compensation package that makes up your full salary. And so I would say it was around 210K all in. And honestly, I was very frugal with Carefree. Like most of the money goes to paying the writers. There's one story a week. I pay each writer once a week. So 4 times a week is what I'm paying. And that specific fee is what I'm budgeting out during the month to make sure I have that money to pay writers. The rest of the money goes to backend. So paying the hosting fees, domain fees, paying different freelancers and contractors for like design help or technical help. And then, of course, for me, paying for like personal development, I don't pay myself for Carefree. And we just recently launched a revenue generating product. So up until that point, Carefree was losing money pretty much every year.
Wow. Okay.
So it just basically we pay writers and that is a loss on our business. So pretty much up until I decided to start taking paid subscriptions in I think 2 years ago. Up until then, we were just operating at a complete loss, just paying writers, not getting anything in return.
Okay. So much there. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that because it's so, as you said, radically transparent.
yeah, yeah.
So, radically transparent, you're talking about the way that your personal life was impacted in
Hmm.
those earlier years
Yeah.
of going full force with Carefree.
Yeah.
And I think people need to hear that. And then also self-funding. That is
Yeah.
no small feat. And I have to tell you, I've been in sales and marketing for a decade, and I've been a journalist freelancing since 2020 alongside corporate gigs. And I
Yeah.
just have to say that I respect so much, Anayo, the fact that you pay your contributors.
Yeah.
And that might sound, there are people hearing this who might not have worked in the media industry or have never been journalists and, might be surprised to hear that it's actually very uncommon what
Yeah.
you're doing to enfranchise your authors. So I really respect that
I appreciate that.
because that's not the norm.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. And
That's
it
not the
was
norm.
probably the most important thing to me. I need to make sure that I'm able to pay these Black women. If I'm going to say I believe in the power of storytelling and I believe in Black women's stories, I need to also believe in them getting compensated for their words and their work. It's very uncommon for writers to be paid. Like, I'll be transparent, I pay $100 per story, and it's mainly because that's just me self-funding. If I had more funding, I would pay more, but I've done my research, and there are publications and platforms 10 times bigger than me that do not pay as much as I do.
That's right.
And so it's mind blowing.
It's honorable. I really
Yeah.
respect, and that's why I wanted to interview you because I remember one of our earliest conversations after that fateful LinkedIn DM.
Yeah.
You told me that you self-fund and that you do that because it's really important for you that you are actually paying your writers. So
Yeah.
you're investing in them in that way. What's one investment that you've done into yourself that has changed
Mhm.
the trajectory of your career and or the way that you show up as a founder and editor-in-chief of Carefree?
Yeah. I cannot underscore enough how much traveling has been able to help me show up as I do as a human in the world, in my business, with others. I have lived in Rome, Italy. I have lived in London. I have lived in Mexico. Um,
Amazing.
I have lived all over. I don't say that as like a flex, but I really say it to say, like, I think culture and being able to expose yourself to other people's stories, livelihoods, cultures is truly one of the biggest like unlocks in terms of building compassion, building empathy, building kindness for other people. And it goes directly into what I do at Carefree and who I am as a person, just because it helps me be able to see the importance of learning others' stories and culture. I am a big slow traveler, so I like to go places and be there for like 3 months. And thankfully, I worked remotely most of my career, so I could do that while working my corporate jobs and doing Carefree after work and it not being an issue. So I would say that's the biggest way I've invested in myself, honestly. Not just, going on vacation, but traveling and immersing myself in other cultures over the course of my life. There have been times where I have had $0 but I still somehow found a way to get somewhere and just be there for some time. And maybe like I was a nanny or maybe I was teaching English and, just being able to do that I can't, like I just can't state enough how much it's really helped me become who
Yeah.
I am as a person and like what I believe in business.
And I am confident that that particular investment in yourself shows up in the way that you lead
Oh
because
yeah.
the way that Carefree is structured is really that it is a soft place to land
Hmm.
for women who are telling sometimes the high points of their stories and sometimes the more grueling. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
not always the mountaintop. Sometimes they're really testifying of that valley.
Oh
And
yeah.
Carefree, yeah, Carefree is that soft landing space, that safe harbor. And I wonder what it's like for you. Do you ever feel like you have a responsibility to be a good steward of that? I mean, what is that like for you? Because you're reading through some really personal testimonies.
Yeah. One of the things that like one of the best compliments my writers give me is like, wow, thank you for reading my story and editing my story with so much care. and like holding it with so much care. And that is like, yeah, I do feel like I have that responsibility because, those sites I mentioned earlier, Exo Jane, Man Repeller, those sites where, women were telling their stories, maybe not getting paid for it or getting low pay for it, and it just getting like blasted to the world for clicks and views. I do feel like on some level it can become exploitative, telling
Yeah.
these really deep, vulnerable stories and putting them out online for strangers to read. And so I don't ever want anyone to think that this is just exploitation of Black women's stories for
Mm.
clicks or for money or views. It is strictly a place, as you said, a soft place to land, a place of healing, a place where the women are empowered, our storytellers are empowered to share their story and let others reflect or view into their lives through them sharing their stories. And so I find myself like I feel a huge responsibility. I do think that a lot of media publications, they've kind of lost that integrity. And I still feel a very deep sense of responsibility and want to keep that integrity intact.
And I think that's the differentiator,
Hmm.
right? The intention is important.
Right.
I want to talk about the coffee table book. So
Yeah.
give us all the, I'm really excited for you about it. So just
You.
want you to share as much info as you can. What was the process like to go from being a digital first publication to hard launching
Yeah.
this hard copy
Yes.
of your coffee
Love
table
that.
book? Tell us about it.
Yeah. The coffee table book came out of, it's funny, we talked about the direction and sacrifices, and a lot of people as Carefree over the years has transformed, taken different shapes. I had people left and right coming to me. You should put ads in your website. You should start a conference. You should throw events. Like, how are you monetizing? How are you building community? And everything, all these different people were telling me, just for some reason, it wasn't resonating. Like, I hear you, and I know that that is the typical trajectory for a lot of Black women owned businesses, Black women owned media businesses, community-based businesses, but it just wasn't calling me, at least at that moment. And I literally just kept getting this calling of a book. You should do a book. It's like, just do a book. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna take this as a sign from God. I'm gonna do a book.
Amen.
And we'll start there. And so I literally, like, I think what are we, 2026? Yeah, maybe early 2024. I was like doing this accelerator. It's a business accelerator, the Madam CJ Walker Pace Bootcamp. It's through New Voices, which is owned by Essence Magazine.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I was in that boot camp, and this was at the time when everyone was telling me I should be doing these things with my business, and I was like, okay, let me join a business accelerator so I can learn what I like, how I can do these things. And as I was going through the accelerator, I was just nothing was really resonating. Like it was, I met so many cool people. I learned a lot, but I was like, this is not quite a fit. Like everything was more about product-based businesses and like how to, understand your profits and losses. And I was just not there yet. So I talked to my mentor in the program, and he was just like, you are running a mission-based business, like a social impact business. And
Yeah.
that means that you probably don't care as much about monetization in this way. You would probably care more about grant funding and doing something that's community based that like the community can rally behind. So anyway, it really just solidified like this book idea, and the stories that we publish, I was like, these stories are too good to just live in a once a week newsletter that goes out and kind of by the
Mhm.
next week it's gone. Like these stories are too good. These women have put too much into these words. I want to solidify them. I want to make them real in real life, physical, archived, hard copy book. And so it really just came from me loving the stories that we publish and wanting to create this guide to Black womanhood, a book that young Black women from their 20s and up can really read and understand the multitude of Black womanhood and the journey of becoming, and how blooming is something that has its peaks and its valleys, from the roots to the thorns to pollination and full
Mm.
blooming. It really resonated with me, and I wanted to create this as something to leave behind of what we have created with Carefree thus far.
Wow, Nayo,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you
And
so much.
congratulations to you, seriously, for heeding that call,
Hmm.
because that's an important piece of it, right? I
Yeah.
wonder, well, first of all, when does it, what's the release date?
So it's coming out end of July, early August. The date is still a little flexible because I'm trying to figure out the shipping. But yeah, end of July, early August is what I'm telling people. But it is available for pre-order now. So if you pre-order now, we have a bunch of pre-order incentives. It'll be signed by me. You'll get a free postcard.
Wow.
Yeah, you'll get flower seeds to continue your blooming journey after the book. And then it'll get to you in a few months this summer. And yeah, we'll be going on tour for it. It's going to be great.
Incredible. And where do we pre-order that?
So you pre-order it carefreemag.com/book. Super simple, hopefully. And there you can see the pre-order link. You can click in and shop. Right now, there's a limited edition cover as well. Once we're out of that, it'll be gone forever. So, if you're interested, check it out. And then there's also information about the book tour on the site. And then if you are a bookstore, maybe you're a bookstore owner listening to this, we have information about like how you can buy the book wholesale and have it in store.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So because you started as a journalist, did you ever visualize this? Like, did you?
No, no, not at all. When I started as a journalist, I thought I was gonna work my way up to be the editor in chief of like Nylon magazine, Harper's Bazaar, Vogue maybe. But it's funny how it all worked out because I did end up being an editor in chief. It's just of my own publication. And so I
Wow.
never
I
imagined.
love that though.
Yeah.
I love
I
that
love it
that is the
too.
way. I love that that is the way the Lord saw fit for you to be that
Yeah.
editor in chief. And I mean, even to that effect, Anaya, did you ever fall into the trap of identifying yourself as your career or your job title at any point in your career? And what
Mm.
advice would you give to someone who's listening to this who might be navigating that particular, I'm going to call it a valley, because I do think
Yeah,
that's a valley.
I would say so.
Um, yeah, what would you have to say to her?
Yeah. It's interesting you asked me that because anyone, like any of my close friends, they know that I am the work-life balance queen. I am very detached from my day jobs. It's funny, when I worked at Facebook, I was doing stuff like I was managing WhatsApp's presence at Cannes Lions in the south of France and like building out our activations and like doing very cool things. But when people asked me about it or just talked to me, it wasn't something that would come up for me in conversation because I keep work and who I am personally extremely separate to the point where I even thought at one point, I was like, should I be like an influencer around how to detach yourself from your day job and how to detach
Mhm.
emotionally from work? Because I believe so much in having boundaries with your job, your day job, and who you are as a person. Now, there are some people who have been lucky to have day jobs who that are completely intertwined with who they are as a person in terms of their mission. Like who you are personally also is kind of what you are able to do in your day job. And I think if that's the case, it shouldn't be something to run away from or shy away from or think is a bad thing.
Mhm.
If it's just something that furthers your own personal mission, I think you should celebrate that. Like, I get the opportunity to also do this work that speaks so much to the things I care about and who I am. But for me, my day job was something I enjoyed, but was strictly a a vehicle, a means to helping fund my true passion projects and my true things that I love and enjoy and hold dear. So I never wanted to have the golden handcuffs on, which is like a popular term in
Yeah.
yeah, and just corporate is, these companies give you all these incentives and pay, and then you feel trapped at some point. It's a good trap. It's golden, but it's a trap. And I never wanted to succumb to that. So,
Mm.
I would say to that girl, like, or that woman, one, if you do feel that way, but you feel like you love the work that you're doing, I wouldn't shy away from that. I would, kind of see it as an opportunity that you get to work in a space that speaks so much to who you are as a person. But if you do feel like maybe you're losing yourself a bit to your work identity, then that's where I would say, like, maybe there is some room to think about, to pull back a little bit and like take some time to think about the things that you truly care about, the values you truly care about, and see where that maybe overlaps or doesn't overlap with your day job. And if it really doesn't overlap, then maybe think about, okay, what are some ways that I can create some space here and think about who I actually am. Like maybe you work at a nonprofit or you work in medicine, but like you don't want to be just defined as a nurse or a doctor or what have you. Think about the things you enjoy to do, enjoy doing after work or you enjoy doing in your personal time. Are you someone who likes to read? Are you someone who likes to travel? Are you someone who likes to be with your friends socially? Like I think a lot of people have to dig a bit deeper to think about what their personal values are
Yes.
and then using that to start replacing the values that have been given to them by corporate. There's also this conversation going on right now about how corporate speak has been seeping into our everyday lives. So,
Circling back and all that. It's like,
yeah,
oh
exactly.
no,
Like we're doing these
stop.
like Q2 dumps on Instagram and it's like it's actually spring girl, but that's okay too. Like just just thinking about like, oh wow, like let's look at the ways in which my life has been kind of taken over by corporate and maybe looking at what you value personally and defining that to then push back against that.
And I do think it takes a certain level of courage, right, to push back against
Mhm.
that in the manner you're speaking, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Not
it,
easy.
and to that exact point, we're talking about risk aversion, right? Like,
Mhm.
what is someone's risk tolerance? I'd love to hear from you about what type of little girl was young Anayo? Like, were you a risk taker? Were you the one that wanted to jump right into the pool? Or were you the one that would just fly down the big hill in your roller skates? You don't care what you bump into. What were
Yeah.
you like? Because I think people need to think about their risk tolerance if they're going to go into entrepreneurship, especially if they, in the long term, intend to be a full-time entrepreneur.
Right. Exactly. I think for me, well, young me, she was very dive right in. Just let's just do it. Let's just try it. You want to sew something, you want to write something, you want to make a film, let's just do it. Call the cousins, let's get them in the film. Like I was that girl. So very just dive in head first and try it and see if you like it. I love asking. I'm more of a why not person than a why. Yeah. So very risk tolerant. And I've taken many, many, many risks in my life. And so I think for me, that is definitely something that people have to know, yeah, like you said, when kind of going into starting your own business or becoming an entrepreneur full time is like you have to realize that you're going to be making a lot of decisions that it's just you making these decisions. You can go and ask this person and this person, but at the end of the day, you're walking such an individual path in terms of the journey. It's so unique to you that you have to become okay with taking risks and making decisions on your own and just being confident that if it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, I'm learning something. It's not a failure. I'm learning something and I'm now going to pivot
Exactly.
and try something else. So you're never taking an L. It's always a lesson. So I think for me, I've always been that girl to just try something and it's truly built that muscle for me over my entire life. Where now rejection is just something that happened on a Tuesday. Okay, now like I got the no. Okay, next, let me try this person.
And I love
And
your
so
mentality on that because we are of
yeah,
the same mind when
yeah,
it comes
yeah.
to that. Because I've been saying for it really, it radically transformed my thinking
Hmm.
and it radically reset my risk tolerance,
Yeah,
frankly, because
absolutely.
I was a very different little girl. I was
Everybody.
I was really the careful little girl who I have to be very honest, was afraid to get it wrong. And it
Ah,
wasn't really until I got involved in theater that changed my life. It opened
oh,
my life up so much, right? And so it's just, I get it. And I love that mentality because we share it, that we don't lose, we learn.
exactly. Only
And I
learn.
saw something recently on LinkedIn. I feel like LinkedIn needs to be my sponsor. Let's really talk about
I
it.
know. Hello. Good
Like
luck.
honestly, hello. I read recently on LinkedIn, a young lady posted, "Congratulations on your failure. Most people don't even try."
Oh, I love that.
Seriously.
Absolutely.
And
People
so
don't
I
even try.
exactly, people are just out here not even trying. So congratulations on whatever thing we're labeling as a failure that really needs to be reframed as a victory because at least we know
Yeah,
and now we
exactly.
can learn from it.
Now you know.
So what is Anayo's next big risk as
Ooh.
relates to Carefree?
Ooh, well, honestly, I mean, because I just came out with this book, I think it's really related to the performance of this book. I'm, as a publication, as a digital publication, putting out a book as a physical product. So it's like I was betting on online and now I'm betting on, physical and print. And, it's been a trend recently that women in glam, women in galleries, libraries, archives, and museums, women starting to create their own curriculums offline. Communities are growing, third spaces. People are really looking to connect in real life. And so I'm placing a bet on physical media in this way, community grown physical media. So we know magazines, that era of like media has died out a lot, but zines, where people are making them, communities are creating them, that's growing a lot. And so
Yes.
self-publishing is growing. And so I'm putting this bet in that, in physical media, and the fact that our community, this was born out of a community. It is a bet. We are going to see how it goes. I'm actually very, with the pre-orders, I've been very pleased at the progress and what we've achieved so far. Like
Amazing.
I'm like, wow, okay, like something's happening here. And I do think it'll be a good blueprint for other, at least Black-owned media companies who are possibly,
Mm,
I've met a lot of fellow editors who are thinking of doing something similar. And I think, to my knowledge, I'm one of the first who's kind of going forth in this way, with it being a hardcover coffee table book at this price point. There is one other woman that I know who's done similar, but she kind of released 100 copies and then it was for her community, and that was that. Like this one is more like a nationally distributed book. So we'll see how it goes, but it is a risk. This is where my money is sinking for sure. So this is where all my money, like I'm really paying money now, for the designer, for the print copies, for traveling to the book tours, marketing spend eventually when I
yeah.
decide to go paid instead of just doing organic, which is what we've been doing thus far. This is really where the money's being spent, but I believe I will make it all back and then some. And even if I,
Amen. You
yeah,
claim it.
I'm claiming it, okay?
Amen.
And even if it doesn't happen, like this is just a testament to the community that we're building and the importance of these stories. No matter how it does, like I believe this book should exist. And so either way, it's a win for me. But yeah, I'm gonna claim it. So
You're speaking victory
yes,
over
absolutely.
Carefree and every single woman who courageously stepped forward and shared their stories with Carefree and allowed these seeds to now be blossoming,
Yeah, it's
right?
beautiful.
So I have like three more questions that we'll do
Oh
like
yeah.
super quick. So what's the tech stack that you could not run Carefree without?
I could not run Carefree without Canva. Lord have mercy. I could not run without Canva. The whole thing. Yeah, Canva, Google Workspace, Airtable for just like organizing the editorial calendar, what's been published, what's in the pipeline. And then I use Tailwind, which is more for like scheduling posts and looking at analytics, etc. So those four. And right now, I would also add like a little bit of Claude. I have been very AI averse pretty much forever and still am. But I also do think there's a little bit I've been neglecting just because my brain has not allowed me to do certain things, like diving into analytics, understanding analytics is not
Mm,
my strong suit. So it's been helping me like understand what is actually working well, what has been working well over the past few years, and what should we do more of. So it's been helping with that. It's been helpful. I wouldn't say it's irreplaceable, but it is kind of growing more and more into my tech stack.
yeah. And thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that. So you predicted my second question. So what's
Yeah.
one thing you automated or outsourced first? So in this case, you could just go into like, what did you outsource? Did you hire anyone to help you do something specific recently? I mean, of course, your publishers and such.
Yeah, yeah. First thing I outsourced is a social media manager. And I think for a lot of businesses, that's one of the bottlenecks is social media and like, now I got to post here. I hired someone to do that. She's great. And she's been with me now for a year and a half.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so she does all of our social media and has been growing our channels and it's been great. So love her and having her. And then the next thing I've outsourced is, yeah, design for the book. So hired a very professional designer. She is a Black woman to design the whole thing. And I was going to try it in Canva. I really was. I was like, I think I could do this. No, you can't. So it would have taken me forever. And so I just went ahead and outsourced that. The next thing I'm looking to outsource is probably a grant writer. I do think that what we're doing is very socially impactful, and there are grants out there that would help fund this work. I just haven't had the brain space or the time to be able to fill out these grant applications, child. So I I would love to hire a grant writer to help with that.
Yeah, that's wise. Yeah, because a huge part,
Yeah,
as you know, of being an entrepreneur is knowing, okay, what are your strengths? What should
right.
you be executing on 100% of the time? And what is it wise to outsource? So
Yeah.
this is brilliant. And then final question.
Hmm.
What advice would you give someone who only has 10 hours a week to give right now? She's listening to Anayo Awuzie and she's
Hmm.
inspired and now she wants to take action. You were spending about 5 to 6 hours every day after work. That
Yeah.
computes, if it's even just business days, that's 25 plus hours a week, right?
Yes.
On top of your 9 to 5 when you were over at Meta. So
Yeah.
someone's only got 10 hours.
Hmm.
What are some steps they should take?
I think 10 hours is perfect. Okay, so you're gonna take 2 hours every day during the week, or however you want to mix it up. If you want to live your life during the weekends, you can do that. But I would take 2 hours every day to, if you're about to launch something, I would kind of phase it out. So start with the research phase. 10 hours a week for research is amazing. And you want to just start looking into who your potential competitors are with this idea, what's already been done, what are the gaps. Take that first 10 hours, that first week to do the research and start realizing, okay, this is what the opportunity is. Maybe this is where some challenges are. This is what people have done. This is what people haven't done yet. This is who exists that is doing the thing. And then from there, if it's, all validating your idea and it sounds great, I would take your next 10 hours the next week to start looking into what are the best distribution channels. So, how are you going to launch this thing? Is it a platform? Is it a website? Is it a community, etc.? Like looking for the best way to launch the thing. I think that one thing I got stuck with was the medium. So I was very bent on a newsletter, and that was how I was going to tell these stories. But there's so many other ways I could have shared the stories. There's also so many other ways that I could kind of push the Carefree mission forward without having to do certain things that I was like boxing myself into. So I would
Mm.
use the next 10 hours to think about that and, reach out to people who are maybe doing it as a community or as a website or as a newsletter, as a product, as a lead generation page, however. And then from there, if it further validates, then you can start thinking about launch. But I will say, if you only have 10 hours a week, I think 10 hours is actually perfect. I was doing the most because it was the pandemic and I had time. So there was there was nowhere to go, nothing to do, nobody to talk to other than on Zoom. So I had the time. But I think nowadays my business is probably about 10 hours a week, honestly.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So
Because
I
you've done
think,
all of that heavy lifting and now
yeah,
you're continuing to plant those seeds, but you've done the
exactly.
heavy lifting.
Exactly. I've done the heavy lifting. So now that has afforded me this ability to just take a few hours a day. And I do more just because with the book, I'm like learning so much that it excites me. But
Yeah.
I think 10 hours a week is perfect to get started with the research. I would just phase it out. Don't overwhelm yourself. Start with the research, competitive analysis, and then think about your platform and your medium and like how you want to distribute your product or your, if it's content, whatever it is. And then launch. I think a lot of people overthink it. I think that, like we said, there's no L's, just lessons. So I
Amen.
think, if you just launch, you have enough information after like 2 weeks to get started and just start learning. That's going to be the best way to figure out what works, what's next, is to just start putting things out there and learning. So that's what I would say.
That's incredible advice. And what a lovely place to pause.
Yeah.
Anayo, this has been Anayo Awuzie representing Carefree Magazine, Carefree Media. What an insightful conversation.
Thank you so
And
much. It was beautiful. I really enjoyed it.
oh my gosh, thank you so much. This has been months in the making, this dialogue between us. And I just really appreciate you sharing so many pearls of wisdom with us. And I'm really excited to see the success that blossoms out of the Carefree Coffee Table book. And I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, come through Blossoms. Yes. Well, thank you so
Yes,
much,
come
Crystal,
through.
for creating this space and having me on. I
Thank
love
you.
talking about the journey. So, yeah, I'm really grateful for the
Thank you
opportunity.
so much. And this has been Hard Launch by Crystal Angelee. Join us next time.